Welcome to the Just Sloans podcast. My name is Chris, and in each episode I'll be sharing stories from our travels, practical tips and tricks, as well as the occasional good-hearted rant about some opinion-splitting, audience-dividing issues. Things like, what's a better pet? A cat or a dog? In this episode, we're going to be talking about campsites, more specifically, whether they are in decline. Are they a thing of the past as people move into sort of bigger camper vans, spend more time off-grid, and as camper van and motorhome sales soar in comparison to caravan sales, and as paid overnight park-ups are on the rise? But before we get into that, I just want to talk about our travel guides. We've currently got seven different travel guides available that cover all different areas of Scotland: the islands, the Cairngorms, the Ultimate Scottish Road Trip, the NC 500, and so much more. We've got 7 of them available at the minute for £6 for the entire month of April. So that's 85 pence a guide. They're optimised for mobiles, so if you want to sort of view them on your phone, that's exactly what they're there for. You get a digital guide and everything else with them as well, like a digital map. And we also have our travel guides, our paperback ones. We've got the ebook versions of the paperbacks if you want something a little bit more detailed. They're all available at the link in the description. And before I also get into that, I want to also mention the fact that we have our newsletter. So this topic came from a newsletter that was sent out to our subscribers, something where we wanted people's opinions, and some of them ended up shocking us a little bit, to be honest, because it's not what I was expecting. But we'll get into that afterwards, because I'm still being victimised by this aggressive little blue tit. So this little bird, if you haven't listened to any of the previous podcasts, I've caught it. I wasn't sure what was going on because I was coming outside on a morning to do the school run or whatever, and just small sections of me wing mirrors were just covered in bird shite. It was just everywhere. And the little bit on the sort of window next to the door, just right next to the wing mirror, just not big, but like not pigeons, just small bits of bird shite. So I wasn't sure what was actually doing it until the other day. I actually got it on video, and it's going in my next video that I'll be publishing next week. This bird is just, I think it's trying to attack the wing mirror. Some people commented when I mentioned it in a previous podcast that it was sort of, it's seen it as a rival and it was trying to attack kind of thing. But honestly, at first, I didn't mind it that much, and it was almost a little bit funny. Now, my wing mirrors are just covered in shit. It's just everywhere, and I'm not particularly happy about it. It is starting to irritate us a little bit, so I need to try and figure something out. I didn't want to get like covers for them or any of that sort of stuff. I've tried moving the van around to a different part, like round the back of the house, and it just chases it. So I feel, like I say, in Scotland, I'd probably report this as a hate crime if I'm honest. So, actually, before we get into the main story, here's another one. This morning, me and Danny were off driving, right? And as we drove along the dual carriageway, it's a 50-mile-an-hour dual carriageway, we pull up behind this car, and the wing mirrors are both still folded in. I don't know how you do that, because surely when you get in the car, even if you're in a rush, you would quickly notice, oh, I haven't even got my wing mirrors folded out. How can you drive for whatever distance you've driven and not realise that your wing mirrors are both still folded in? Not just one. So it's not like maybe your passenger one's in because you have to manually push them out and you can't reach that one till you stop, so you just push that one out. Just both of them. Surely just your peripheral vision, you're used to your car, you're used to your van, whatever it is, you sort of notice new things, or just things that are different. So like if Danny drives the car for something and then I come back, because what she also always does is she'll get a parking ticket somewhere and she just leaves it, or a piece of paper on the dashboard, so that now I feel like I cannot see, because although it's off in the distance and it's on the passenger side, or it's slid all the way along or whatever, that just distracts the hell out of me. She I don't even think she knows it's there. I don't know how she cannot see it. The second I get in, I'm like, that needs to move. That is obscuring my view. And I mean, it's not, but emotionally it is. So like, surely just the little your little area, you get in your car, you sit, like, even, you know, if someone's adjusted the seat and you get in, you're like, something's not right. You kind of put your finger on it, but you just, nah. Surely at least that you would notice, but no, They didn't. And guess where she was on this 50-mile-an-hour dual carriageway? Sitting in the outside lane, nout going on, no other cars about. As soon as they've now decided that every dual carriageway, even though the safety of vans, cars and everything is much better than it ever has been, they've decided that everything needs to be slower. So dual carriageways that were 70 are now 50, and because it's now 50, everyone just thinks, oh, it's a free-for-all, I can do what I want. I can drive anywhere I want. I can sit in the right-hand lane when there's nothing else on the roads. There's no junctions, there's no roundabouts, nothing. I'm just going to sit here with my wing mirrors in and just have a merry little saunter to, I don't know, Costa. By the way, why does Costa just feel like it's a gathering of old people? You're going in and it's heaving. Just loads of old women just sitting talking all the time. Anyway, that's a different story. But I just didn't get it. I didn't understand why they've had to change dual carriageways down to a 50, because as soon as they did, like I say, everyone just forgets how to drive. Like, if you're not overtaking, just get in the left-hand lane. If you're not turning right, get in the left-hand lane. Like, because what happens is you get stuck. Like, not everyone does the speed limit, so people go slower. And if I was a police officer, that would be a prisonable offence. Just like you can go into prison, probably, or at least get arrested or points for going too fast, I would be dishing out full, like, life sentences for going slow as well. Just drive the speed limit. It doesn't have to be faster than it, but it shouldn't be slower than it either. The speed limit's there. That's a guide. Just be that. Because what happens is you got Jeff, who hates his wife in his Nissan Leaf, sitting in the left-hand lane doing 35, 40 in a 50. And then you've got Karen, who hasn't even got her wing mirrors open. She doesn't even know what lane she's in. She just presumes you can drive wherever. She hasn't even seen Jeff in the neck and neck. And you feel like you're driving behind a presidential convoy. You can't have gone anywhere. Everyone's backed up. And these two are just sitting there. It's not like when Laurie's trying to overtake, and at least he's trying, but he's just doing 1 mile an hour faster than the other ones, so it takes a while. These didn't even that. He's like, nah, I'm doing the speed limit. This is fast enough. I didn't want to get home. I cannot stand Sue. I'm just going to drive slow. I'm going to run errands for stuff I didn't really need. And she hasn't seen anyone. The mirror in a car, the interior mirror, that's purely there just to check her hair at traffic lights, no else. And I didn't mean to accuse just women, but it is just women. But anyway, that's me rant out the way. So let's get into the meat of this episode, because I want to ask a bit of a, I suppose it's maybe a polarizing question, because I don't know, I'm just basing this off my past experience. But are we starting to see the decline of campsites? Are they here to stay or not? So for me, campsites don't work. They don't work for me, how I use it. Now, I'm not saying they don't work at all, but I'm just saying how I do road trips. A campsite is just too rigid. There's not enough flexibility, and it's just not really something I need. I've got everything I need in the van. All I need is just somewhere to stay. So with the sort of authorised, like, overnight park-ups at places like Wick, Bamborough, Kielder, that kind of thing. Now, I'm not saying because I don't want to stay in a campsite, I'm not willing to pay for a park up. I'm fine with that. But I didn't want services. I didn't need services, and I didn't like the whole experience of a campsite. If we break down the experience of a campsite, I'll explain what it is I didn't like about it. So booking a campsite is a rigmarole. Other than Campervan and Motorhome Club, and probably Motorhome and Caravan Club, or whatever they're called, and the odd campsite, most of the websites are just ancient. They look like they're from like the early 2000s. They look like MySpace pages, some of them. I'm expecting music and like stars trailing off my mouse cursor. Some of them are ridiculous. So that, for one, is just, it just doesn't work for me, that kind of thing. And then if you kind of get their website to work, you ring up and you always sound like it's a bloke who answers the phone. He doesn't say any name of a campsite. He just answers the phone, hello. And you don't know if it's a campsite or whether you've just rang someone's house. You say, like, it sounds like you've just disturbed him from eating his dinner. So you book the campsite, you get there, or you get the email saying, oh, you need to check in before 4. Between, say, 2 and 4. And you're like, well, that's right in the middle of the day. In the winter, not so much. But in the summer, like, you've got 6 hours still of daylight. I can't be checking in at that time. Like, I like to be busy. Well, we always are busy with YouTube and other stuff, but I like to be busy, like, flying around, getting as much done as I can during the day, and then, like, park up, have something to eat, get into sleep, and crack straight on the next day. I'm not one for dilly-dallying. I'm not one for sort of settling somewhere. And the type of road trips I like to move on to new places day after day. And if I'm going to stay somewhere overnight, it's just literally to sleep, so I didn't need that. Then you get, well, you ring them and say, can I check in late? That's normally a stress because they live there. They've got other stuff on. They do not want to have to deal with people just rocking up later on. I mean, we went to, it was the NEC when we were doing the motorhome and caravan club thing with Park for Night, selling the travel guides in October. We stayed at a Toby Carvery for the first 3 nights, and that was scary. Birmingham, Toby Carvery car park in a camper van. I don't think I've ever checked a doors locked so many times in my life. It was ropey, and we were just knackered. We were busy all day, talking, just stressed a bit. I was trying my hardest not to do any work all day, so it was tiring watching Danny do it all. And then when we get back to the campsite, back to the park, you're not knowing whether you're going to get a spot because it wasn't like there was plenty of people there, but there wasn't much space, and it was just a mess on. So anyway, we booked this campsite, a little farm thing. We rang and went through the whole rigmarole of trying to sort out a late check-in. We got there. We got wrong for going in the wrong entrance because there wasn't any signposts and it was dark and there was 2 turn-offs and the one I went was next to a house. So I had to turn around. She wasn't happy about that. It was raining. She would come out with like jammers on, and then we get there, and then for some reason at all campsites, most of the, well, I think all of them do it really, is they do like a, you know when you go to a funeral and the bloke gets out of the car and starts walking ahead and everyone drives slowly behind it. They do that. Like, I know some campsites are a little bit like Dawn of the Dead. The average age is through the roof and it's like an open air care home, some of them. But like, surely, because we found the campsite, surely we can find a plot that's probably numbered, because most of them are. Just let us crack on. It's not hard. We'll be able to find it in this one. So anyway, she walks around, she tripped our way, we were buckled laughing. She like turned round and, you know, when you're like trying to swallow, you laugh like a school kid. Anyway, we get round the corner, there's only 5 plots and 4 of them are taken, so there's only 1 plot, which is ours, and she felt it necessary to walk us round. And then, because if you've got a California like we have, whether it's a Transporter one or Grand California, the doors are on the wrong side because they're made for European roads, not UK. And it's like I've just asked them to explain like the Google algorithm, because the confusion in the face when they like see me doors on a different side it's perplexing. So then that's all. And then why do you have to park in a specific way? Maybe it's a privacy thing. Everyone looks on it, but every van's got windows on both sides, so it's not really that private. Like, we didn't sit outside or anything. And then they're like, "Oh, what services? Like, will you be needing to use the showers and stuff?" And I'm like, "No, I've got everything I need. I just want to go to bed." And then even though I've said no, they'll go through a 10-minute spiel about where the codes are, this and that, and here's a slip, and then remember that, and when you do this and do that. And then there's a time that you kind of check out before, and it's too much. It just doesn't work for us. So anyway, I sent out an email to our mailing list customers. We've got over 2,000 now on that list, and it was basically just asking other people's opinion, because although that's mine, I know that that's not everyone. We are quite unique in the way we travel. Not everyone travels that way. So I sent this email and I asked 4 different questions, and I'm going to go through what the questions were and the answers that people gave and what percentages they were. So the first one was, how often do you stay at campsites? 28% said every time we travel. 44% said most of the time. 20% said sometimes. 7% said rarely, and 1% said never. So that's over 60% seem to use campsites almost all of the time. That was a bit surprising. I didn't expect that. So we'll get on to the next question. Was, if you had to pick one, which would it be? A campsite or a pay and flexible overnight park up? 64% picked the pay and overnight park up, like a flexible park up. Only 36% said a campsite. So it shows that a lot of people, and I thought this might be the case, so I wanted to sort of find out, like, is it really the campsite, or is it the security of knowing you can stay somewhere? Because I'm not that bothered, and we've had so much experience parking off grid. We've got everything we need in the van. I've got a belt Clayton system, so the electrics is bang on. We've got plenty of water, like 110 litres of water, fridge, freezer, central heat, and everything we need. So we never need really a campsite. But because we travel so much, the Clayton's always got charged, so that's never an issue either. So I said, if you sorry, what do you like most about the campsites? Services, which is like your showers and so on. 52% said that. I was surprised at that. 16% said safety. 0%, quite a social bunch, said meeting people. It's a nightmare, and you get into a campsite and you pull up, you're tired, you didn't want to really talk to anyone, and then you see him. He's there opposite. He's normally the one. He's got skin like an old Chesterfield, like an unnatural brown. It looks like a well-used leather handbag, and he clocks you. And he's got no shirt on either, normally. A deck chair outside. And he's just busy. Him and his wife hate each other. They've been together forever. He's got a caravan. And he's just looking. He's always on the prowl to see if he can see someone. And then when he comes over, he asks everything about he knows everything. I don't know if he reads, like, I don't know, magazines or something. I don't know how he does it. But he knows everything about every type of camper van, caravan, specs, reviews. He knows everything. And whatever you're doing's wrong. Oh no, you shouldn't be using one of them. You need these kind of hammer. You need this. You need that. And oh, there's no worse. So it seems that it's not just me. Everyone else hates people as well. 12% said the location, which is a good one because there is campsites where the location is just so good they offer something, which is what a lot of campsites don't. Is they offer something different in terms of there's a reason to go to that specific place. So like. We've been, I think it's called Sunnyside Croft, I think, at Malagan Morar. Beautiful area, lovely park up. It's probably one of the only campsites I think we've ever been to twice, other than when we've been to places with the kids. It's right next to the beach. It's beautiful. And the bloke at the campsite was super friendly, so I would definitely recommend that one. You've got like the ones at Sango Sands on the NC500, that's right on this beautiful beach. And again, beautiful. So like them ones, I feel like they'll always be in demand because of the location. They bring something, and that's a good thing. Where there's a lot of campsites that they're just in the middle of nowhere. There's out there. There's nothing. They don't bring anything other than it's just somewhere that you can stay, and that's the ones I struggle with. And then the last option was somewhere to stay without the risk of being moved, and 20% said that. So 16% of safety and 20% that, they were kind of the same thing. So we can say 36% of people say it's kind of that uncertainty more than likely. And then I've put on, do you ever use campsite services? 56% said all of the time. 40% said only because we've paid, but the van has got everything that we need. And 4% say never. So basically, what this tells me is that my use case is slightly unusual compared to most, which I thought that might be the case, but also that people aren't sort of set that they need a campsite. They just want somewhere that they know they can stay. And that's where this all comes in. So if you look at a few statistics, which I've been doing a bit of research on. So the average age of a camper van owner 5 years ago was 60.1 years old. The average age of a camper van owner now is 45.4 years old. Now, when these stats come out, these presumably, I'm not 100%, but I would imagine these stats don't include conversions because most conversions are not registered as an actual camper van. So I would suspect that average age is maybe slightly older than what the actual average age is, maybe like your early 40s instead. So as that age drops, I think the use case of what people want to use, well, park-ups for will change. People like being able to travel more. People travel further. People are not so bothered about the static stuff because, again, not just that, but there's a much bigger rise in like bigger vans. When we're traveling now, we see a lot of vans these days that are much bigger than what we used to. Before, it was always your transporter size stuff. Like, you want, ideally, a lot of the time, they're good for little weekend trips, but they can be a little bit harder work if you haven't got somewhere to just stretch your legs and relax a little bit more, like a campsite where you can sit outside, that kind of thing. Especially in the winter months, where now a lot of people, we see them all the time in your medium wheelbase, your long wheelbase vans, conversions, that kind of thing. And now, because of electric cars and that, all of that sort of good stuff, the battery systems that you can get your hands on for much more affordable prices are insane compared to, I can only imagine what a good lithium setup would have set you back. I don't know, even really 5, 6, 7 years ago, I bet it was an absolute arm and a leg. Now you can buy the off the shelf ones that you didn't even need to wire in, like the power bank style ones, for say £1,000, and they'll do a good job for most people as well. So I think there's a lot in terms of like things, like the uses are changing. Like, campsites are set up primarily for camper fans and people who want to stay there for a period of time, and that'll always be a thing. I'm not saying it won't, but caravan sales are not going up at the same rate that camper van sales are, and the average age of a caravan owner is still 62.9 years old. That's a hell of a lot older than caravans and motorhome owners. So I feel like that is there is a change coming, and I don't know whether, like in Norway, it was very accessible. So we used campsites a few times, not many, but a few, just purely because it was so easy. You literally would drive in, there was no one there, you pick a plot, whatever's available, you can just park up there, plug in if you want to, and all of that sort of stuff. And there was like a sign on it saying that they'll come round. I think it was about 7, 8 o'clock with a card thing. You pay on your card, and then they ask, is everything all right? Do you need anything? Now we're fine. You had like a little slip on each part up so you could see where the services are and how you use them, if there's any codes, that kind of thing. And then like from there, like if you didn't pay on the night time, so if you got there later, they would come round on the morning as well, or some of them you would pay on the way back out the next day. And it was just ideal. It was much better. It was a much better place for that. I mean, the whole country was a lot more welcoming for that. There was services everywhere. There was loads of stuff that was much more accessible for everyone, and it was much like you felt like they wanted you there. Where in the UK, especially in England, it's like with the scum of the earth half the time. Maybe that's the answer. Campsites don't have to become irrelevant, but I feel like if they don't change how they ran, then they will become irrelevant, because people like to move. They like to be able to have that freedom to come and go, not as they please, because there has to be rules, there has to be sort of regulations. But as places like Bamborough, Kielder, Wick, there's loads of them all over the place now where you can stay overnight, Forestry Commission car parks, that kind of thing. Because people's got off-grid systems, they've got vans with all the stuff in them, they've got comfort that they never previously had. We don't need a campsite for that. So it would be interesting to hear what your opinion is on this. Actually, on top of that as well, you have got that Scottish motorhome tax, which is being discussed and debated at this point. If that comes in, I honestly think that'll change a lot, and we will be covering that in an upcoming episode. Me and Danny are going to sit down and discuss that in detail, because that's going to change things potentially. But like I say, if you're watching or listening to this on Spotify, there's a Q&A section in the episode description. So if you click on that, you can answer the survey, and I'll be putting on what your opinion is, because again, this is a conversation. This is just my opinion. This is what I think. It's not necessarily factual. It's just my opinion, and it will be interesting, again, like I say, like I did with the surveys. And if you want to be part of these sort of surveys and the questionnaires and stuff that we send out in the newsletter, then jump on the mailing list. There is a link for that in the description. But for the time being, that's all for this episode. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one.